Hey, it's James here from goodguitarist.com, and today I want to show you how to get the most out of your practice time. I myself am a parent, and I understand how precious those few moments that we all have throughout the day can be. Sometimes it's just 10 or 15 minutes, and we got to make it count. So today I want to discuss some strategies that I've used myself when I was a beginner and that I've shared with my students that'll help you stay organized and ensure that you're constantly improving during your practice time. And everything that we're going to discuss today is written down in my free ebook. It has everything that you need to get started, including a step-by-step practice guide that'll show you the best way to get from absolute beginner to confident strummer. It's 100% free for all my subscribers. I'll include a link in the corner as well as the description of this video. And near the end of this tutorial, we'll go over a sample practice routine. So be sure to stick around to the end so that you can see this all, being put to use in a real world scenario. The first concept that I want to discuss is separating your hands. You have your chord hand and then you have your strumming hand. And it doesn't matter if you're right-handed or left-handed. One of your hands is going to be playing chords and the other one is going to be strumming. Usually your dominant hand is strumming, since that requires a lot of precise rhythmic motion, and your non-dominant hand is going to be playing chords because it's more of a passive task. And in order to practice effectively and maximize gains, it's important to work out each hand separately. For our chord hand, we can start with silent switching. That's where you hold a chord shape and then you move to the next chord shape silently. You don't bother plucking the strings, you just work on the movement. Now, when it comes to that movement, there's two types of switches. There's common finger switching, and that's where you pivot off of a finger. Let's say you're going from G to D. You pivot off of your ring finger. And then you pivot back. You leave that finger down because it's a common finger between both of those chord shapes. And it helps anchor your hand to the fretboard so that you don't lose your place, and it makes switches so much smoother and quicker. And there are a ton of switches that use that trick, that use a common finger. I go over all that in my free ebook, and it also includes a whole series of training videos that go over all the basics, switching from G to D, from G to C, and so on. So, definitely be sure to get that. Now, the other type of chord switching is called order of operations. Not every chord switch is going to share some common finger. And when that happens, you want to plan a certain order that you do it in. Let's say I'm going from G to A minor this time. I'll first move my index finger and then I'll place these two fingers like a unit. When you switch back, you go in a certain order. I'll put these two fingers and then I'll put these two. It doesn't matter what you pick. The whole point is that you just have a strategy mapped out that you repeat every time to build up muscle memory. You keep going through a certain order, silently switching, and that trains your chord hand. And a little caveat, something to consider is if you try this and you get stuck, let's say you spent a month working on G to A minor, always going in the exact same order, building up that muscle memory, but it's still not working. If that's the case, just change the order. Sometimes it's important to approach a problem from a few angles. And I don't really know the science behind this. I just know that when people get stuck, we change the order and it gets better. So that's something else to consider. Now, once you've practiced some silent switching, the next thing you should do is really simple. You just test the strings. All you do is you pluck every string to see if it's ringing clearly. When you look at a chord symbol, those X's and O's at the top, they'll tell you what should be ringing and what shouldn't. And with the C chord specifically, you might find it a bit hard to get them all to ring out, and I have a little checklist with 4 things to look out for when I'm testing my shapes. There's your thumb placement. So you want your thumb to be in a nice spot, having it upright, with good overall posture, in a good position, keeping the guitar's neck upright. There's arched fingers, making sure that your fingers are nice and curled. Pressing closer to the fret, that gives you more leverage, when you're further away from the fret versus closer. And then just simply pressing hard enough without over pressing. Those are the 4 things to keep in mind as you're getting your shapes together. Finally, once you've worked out your shapes with silent switching and testing each string, you'll want to add an element of rhythm or a time constraint, because in the context of a song, you need to change chords seamlessly at precise moments. And the best way to do this is with the chord switching game. I'll demonstrate it really quickly. Let's say you're working on going from G to D. You'll strum G on beat 1, you'll count 2, 3, 4, and during that time you're counting, you switch to D. And then you strum D on beat 1, you count 2, 3, 4 as you switch back to G. And when you do that, counting aloud with a steady beat, it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. And you just go back and forth doing it like that. And once you're comfortable with that, the rules change a little bit. Now we're going to strum on beats 1 and 2, 1, 2, and then when I count 3, 4, that's when I switch. So you have less time to switch, and it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And once you get comfortable with that, now we strum on beats 1, 2, and 3, and that only leaves us with beat 4 to switch. So all in all, we're strumming more and we have less time to switch. And I go over all of this in the training videos that come with my free ebook. So check that out if you want dedicated videos for working on all the most important switches. It'll just take you through the game. You get to practice along with me. Anyways, those are some of the exercises to isolate our chord hand. Now we'll figure out what to do with our other hand, the one that's in charge of strumming. And before we delve into the exercises, I want to clear something up. When people are getting started, they tend to neglect the rhythm without realizing it. We can't really see rhythm the same way that we can see which notes we're pressing on the fretboard. So we tend to get carried away or fixated on the chords and notes. And people will tell me, I can't switch chords fast enough, and that's what's holding me back. But that's only half true. What's actually happening is the chords are interrupting your rhythm. I've already demonstrated this in a few other videos, so I'll be quick about it. But basically, when beginners focus too hard on making perfect chord switches, they interrupt or pause their rhythm. And it's better to just power through and adjust the chords while the strumming pattern stays nice and steady. Now, when it comes to training your strumming arm, you can break it down in a million ways, but let's break it down into 2 different things. Your internal rhythm is totally separate from guitar. It just has to do with music in general. Whether you're a piano player, a drummer, a bass player, a vocalist, you have to have an internal sense of rhythm, some way of feeling exactly when the beat is going to come around, and just really getting in touch with the idea that there's this recurring pulse in the song, just like the pulse in your heart, and it just keeps going at a steady pace. And you're just joining along with it, alongside it. And this isn't something that you have to be born with. While some lucky people are, most people have to develop their internal sense of rhythm. And there's a lot of ways to train it up. I like to start with clapping exercises. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then clapping along to songs. Then counting and clapping along to songs. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. And I do this kind of stuff in my beginner course. My ebook touches on it as well if you're interested in some more concise step-by-step direction with that sort of stuff. But essentially, Rhythm is all around us, and just being more focused on it and more aware of it is going to help you so much. Something really simple that you can do is just hold the strings with your chord hand by lightly touching them. And muting the strings takes the chords out of the equation. From here, you just load up a song and you just play downstrokes. It's like clapping along, but guitar style. And if you can do that, you'll be able to do anything. You'll always be able to grow from there. I had a student, when she started with me, one of her goals was to finally be able to play chords and strum. And she said that she had been playing for over 10 years, had about 4 or 5 different guitar teachers, and no matter what she tried, she couldn't feel the beat, and she felt hopeless. And when she showed me all the stuff that she was working on, I realized that the biggest problem was that she was trying to do too much all at once. We need to break things down further and do the absolute simplest stuff. It took us a couple months to get to the point where she could count 1, 2, 3, 4 along with a song, but we did it. And once we got over that hump, that easy thing that, so many of us take for granted, to be able to just count 1, 2, 3, 4 accurately along to a song, the floodgates were open. From there, it took no time at all to actually build up the downstrokes and upstrokes and all the, mechanics of guitar around that solid foundation. So that's the internal rhythm. And now we're going to take that and apply it to guitar through the mechanics of strumming. And the one thing that you need to know, the most important thing here, is that the downstrokes fall on the numbers and the upstrokes fall on the ands. So we count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and as we move our arm down, up the entire time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And we want to do that as slowly as we need to, just getting used to that. 1, the numbers are downstrokes, and 2 and once you can do it slow and steady, then, maybe you can try to do it at a nice medium pace. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And you don't have to strum too hard. You're just grazing the strings. 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And once you're pretty comfortable with that, once you can lock into the rhythm at a few different tempos, like really slow, medium, maybe a bit quicker, you do that with some songs. You just load up a recording, mute the strings, and just do that with the song. And that's the best way to start developing your musical feel, And that down up is the foundation that all patterns are built upon. Your arm constantly moves down and up with the beat. And all you have to do after that is decide when to make contact with the strings as you're moving your arm constantly. And that'll give us different patterns, And to learn patterns, I have a 4-step method that I like to use with my students. First, we learn to say the pattern out loud rhythmically. Down, up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up. And then you keep saying it, but now also with muted strings, you just play down, up on the guitar as you keep saying it. So you go down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down, 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 up. So I'm not playing the pattern yet. I'm still just playing, a constant stream of down, ups, but I'm saying the pattern as I do this. And then slowly you tell your hand what to do at your own pace. You're used to saying it. You go down, up, down, 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 up. And notice those times that I moved up without making contact, That's how you get your arm used to that, to just constantly moving down and up. From there, you just gradually speed up. You don't just go straight to trying to play the song, you just go a little bit faster. So we practice the chord stuff on its own. We practice the rhythm stuff on its own. And now we need to work on putting it together. And this is the point where we do need to simply just go for it. Just try and see what happens. My biggest advice for making sure you get through it is to keep the pattern going. The rhythm gets priority over the chords. That's the whole point of the chord switching game. It prioritizes the beat and gives you time to switch so that you get used to playing with a steady beat. We get used to that pressure of switching chords, and then we add strumming patterns that start really simple. My beginner's course is actually the best example of this method because it's where I've taken what I've done with all my students and kind of just extracted all the best parts into a clear path. It's not about learning things and then trying it on your own as much as it is experiencing it together throughout the course, learning the songs along the way. So please check that out if you'd like that style of learning. Also, any of my YouTube tutorials, free here on YouTube, do go through all these various phases. We play the chords with downstrokes only just so we can get the switching going. We talk about some tips to make the switching easier. We break down the strumming pattern and learn it gradually, and then we add it back to the chord progression, Anyways, those are all the different things that we can focus on in order to get the most out of our practice time. And now I want to show you what a beginner level practice routine might look like. We're going to start out with some goals, and this is pretty obvious. You want to learn songs, so we write down the songs that we want to learn, and we write out the chords that they use. And I have tons of super easy songs to learn here on this channel. I'll include them in a playlist. And there are also a bunch of suggestions in my ebook as well, and I'm going to pick a few from there. So we have a bunch of songs that we want to learn. We know which chords they use, and now we pick a song and start working on it. Let's do Jet Plane. It uses G, C, D, and a basic strumming pattern. If we break it down for chord switching, we'll have to practice G to D, G to C, and C to D. Those are all the possible combinations. We're going to go through our checklist now. We'll separate our hands. That means practicing silent switching, going from G to D, a whole bunch, G to C, and then from C to D. And we're going to figure out whether those have a common finger or whether they use order of operations. G to C is an order of operations, so we have to put our fingers down in a certain order to make the switch. We test them, make little adjustments. Oh, that didn't work. That's better. And then we do the chord switching game for each of those switches. Now we're going to take a look at the rhythm. First, we start with our internal rhythm, and that could be as simple as listening to the song, and doing this with the song and getting used to the feeling of it, to the tempo, just muted strings, strumming along to it. And then we can take a look at the mechanics of strumming, at the actual pattern that we're using. We break the pattern down and we learn it. And that's what I do in the tutorials. That's the whole point of the tutorials, is to help you with those things. We make sure we have continuous arm motion and we can play the pattern over and over again. And then I like to do just the chord progression with downstrokes, just so we can get used to it. And then we put it all together. And remember, the rhythm gets priority. Your chord hand will clean up over time, but you want to make sure that that rhythm keeps going. And you want to go back and review constantly, practice those switches. It's not like you're just going to get them all of a sudden. It takes a while to really get them clean and quick enough and accurate enough to, for me personally, I had passable chords at a certain point, but then it got better and cleaner, and I got rid of all those little string squeaks, and there's all these little subtle improvements that you'll always be making. Anyways, that's my advice for developing a practice routine. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more lessons like this. My free ebook is available up in the corner, and there's more information on my beginner's course there as well. Have a fun time practicing, and I'll see you soon.